how do you interview your best if this is a muscle you haven't exercised? Only one employer has to like you enough to write you an offer. Then all the other failures, all the other interviews, none of that matters. Hi, I'm John Mason Smith. I'm the owner and founder of HireWith, and I help people get jobs for a living. Today, I want to talk to you about how to position yourself in the best possible light to actually get the job you're applying for. I have met a lot of candidates who have self-sabotaged themselves during the interview because they make one mistake. And that mistake is that they do not think like a salesperson. When you start applying for jobs, for a very short period of time, you become a sales rep. And the product you are selling is yourself. And unfortunately, most people statistically are not salespeople. And so the question is, how do you interview your best if this is a muscle you haven't exercised? So today I want to give you a few tips on how to interview like a pro and how to tell your story in a way that's more likely to land you the job. So the first thing I want to point out is it is definitely a mindset shift. You have to think in terms of what the employer is looking for, not in terms of what you're looking for. The first interview you do is really about just one thing, which is making a friend. At the end of the day, the vibe check is more important than you'd think. So how do you pass the vibe check? Well, the most important thing you can do is practice your elevator pitch for yourself. Take your story and bullet point it out. Frame it in the way that you want your story to be told. And then in your own time, in a quiet room, practice. I recommend bullet points because you don't want to be reading word for word from a script. People know when you're reading a script. Trust me. The other thing you're going to want to do is get so comfortable with that narrative that you internalize it. You also want to be sure to address red flags head on. You're not running away from something bad. You're running to something good. So when you're describing to people why you left your last position or series of positions, you can frame the decision you made in a context where the employer is thinking, yeah, that's something that I can fix. This is something that I'm good at. Or realistically, this is a problem that's not going to stop me from working with this employee. You can say, here's what's happened. Here's what I learned. Here's how I've changed. So let's talk about my story as an example. My story changes depending on who I'm talking to because the context is different. If I was applying today with my background to be a customer service rep, I would talk about how when I was a sales rep for Paylocity, I spent a lot of time visiting current customers and solving their problems and going back and demoing systems. And I would shake a lot of trees to make sure that the right person at the right time was there to solve them. And then I left that role because the company was growing and changing and became publicly traded and the leadership changed. And I just missed the life of a small local company. And that's when I did X and Y, right? Like you can lead this story. By contrast, if I was telling the story about trying to become a manager, I might say I was a sales rep with Paylocity and I had 5 or 6 sales reps that were on my team and I was the most senior of them all at the end. And I often was brought in to coach the other ones and run on calls with them. People looked to me for leadership on how I could help the other people of my team hit their numbers. Again, these are both the same story. I worked at Paylocity, I sold a lot of payroll, but the context matters. So if there's a layoff or a reduction in force, one thing that you can do is reach out to your managers as quickly as possible, get letters of recommendation. The important thing is to highlight how much you contributed to the organization, how much you are interpersonally connected with your leadership and your supervisors and your peers. Assuming you can find somebody internally to vouch for you, you can focus on that as your story. Hey, we were really vibing as a team. We were really doing well together. And then ultimately leadership wanted to take the company in a different direction. And here's a really wonderful letter from my coworker who spoke highly of me. And guess what? You can give them a letter back, right? So what do employers really want out of a first interview? They really only want a few key things. They want to know, A, what's this person's deal? What's their story? Why are they in front of me? And what is the reason that made them leave their last comfortable place? They want to know, B, that the problems you had or have are problems they can solve. And C, they just want to like you. Workforce culture in America has kind of shifted toward the casual in recent years. It never hurts to dress up or to put on a nice outfit and to be professional. But at the end of the day, it's not just your experience that determines whether or not someone's going to succeed in a role. It's also personality. What employers are looking for are people that they can drop into their team that will mesh with what they've built. It's as simple as taking a deep breath and thinking, okay, this person wants to like me. They have already seen my resume. They have already seen my LinkedIn profile. They've already seen things about me that have led them to say, I think this person could be the one. The last thing I want you to remember is that you only need one. By definition, that means that most interviews you do, you will get passed on. You have to remember that it's very much like dating. If you find the right one, then all the other failures, all the other interviews, none of that matters. So every time you enter into a new interaction with a new employer, the thing you should really focus on is this someone I want to be around? And is this someone that wants to be around me? And do I align with the things that these people are going to provide me as an employer? Are they going to provide me the right things that align with what I need as an employee? These are just a few tips when thinking about the context of how to better tell your story. At the end of the day, your story is your own. Please reach out to any of us here at HireWith. We can help you craft your narrative custom to you. Remember, there are plenty of fish in the sea, and at the end of the day, you only need one. So take your narrative, internalize it, go out there, make some friends. Let's get a job. Thanks, guys. You got this. Good luck.